Okay, I am way late on my okra cooking video, I know that. Today we'll be cooking a big pan of fried okra. Here's my pan. This is a 14-inch Cuisinart pan. I just got it this year for cooking the okra. It has a Quantanium non-stick finish. Hard anodized. Good pan. Alright, let's get started. First thing you need to do is wash your okra. Wash it in cold water. This is how I wash it. I don't know how other people do it. This is how I do it. That's a 14-inch pan. I will be cooking approximately 45 pods of okra in it. And there's one average pod right there. Also, I have a new haircut today. See? I cut a couple of inches off anyway. And before I cut my okra up, I like to put my pan on. Put the oil in the pan. This is olive oil, by the way. And then turn the stove top on simmer to kind of preheat my pan. I like to cut my okra in approximately 1/2-inch slices. Okay, now that we have our okra cut up, the next step is to put some cornmeal on it. I prefer to use just plain white cornmeal. I prefer not to use the self-rising, although it's not a disaster if you use the self-rising. The reason for that is the self-rising has a little bit of salt in it, and it's actually best not to salt your okra while it's cooking, because it makes it sweat just a little bit. And the whole thing of okra, you don't want your okra to be soggy after you cook it. You want it to be lightly crispy. And for it to be lightly crispy, you don't want it to sweat any. So, therefore, do not salt your okra except right at the very end of your cooking or after you finish cooking. Okay, the next step is I take one piece of, put it in the middle of the pan, turn my stovetop up to 6. This stovetop particular one goes to 8 and then high. I turn it on 6. And I use olive oil. I always have preferred the lighter type of olive oil. Some of it's heavier than others. I prefer the light. Your goal is to get your okra lightly brown, lightly crispy, all over, and try not to burn it, try not to get it mushy. That is the goal at any rate. If your okra winds up being a little bit mushy, you've done one of two things wrong probably. You've tried to put too much okra in the pan, which is a no-no, or you have not cooked it on a high enough temperature. Okay, one thing I like to do is to turn all my okra. See, of course, when you go and put it in the pan, it's all manner of shapes. I like to take it and turn it all cut side down, which is easier than it sounds. You just dive in and start turning it cut side down. That way your first surface will be nice and brown, kind of. When it's up on the edge side to start with, the edges have a little bit of a tendency to turn black. When it's cut side down, it does not have nearly as much tendency for the edges to turn black even after you turn it over and get it all jumbled up. It was 6:10 when I put the first handful of okra into the pan. Also, I really do prefer the non-stick pan to the cast iron. I know, yeah, all those Southerners just generally use a cast iron pan, but for okra, to me, the edges of the okra, and by the way, my stovetop is a little bit uneven, so you'll see me grab my pan and readjust my oil quite a few times while I'm doing this. Anyway, yeah, most Southerners use a cast iron pan for about everything, but for some things, you can't beat a non-stick pan for some things. I don't care if some people do say it has some health consequences using a non-stick pan. I think mainly you need to just, if the non-stick pan starts to deteriorate on you, you need to toss it and buy another one. That's why I don't buy a super expensive one. This one here is kind of a mid-range pan, this Cuisinart. I got it from Amazon.com for right at $40, including shipping. Now you got to keep in mind it is a very large pan, and I had previously got one from Walmart for $20, a pan this size, and I did not like it at all. So sometimes I guess you just get what you pay for. And I like to sort of just peek, and the first one I see that is sufficiently brown, I will make my first turnover of the okra. And my stove is still on 6, by the way. I do put a little bit of pepper on it, which I haven't done yet. Right now would be the longest period of time I go without turning it over. This very first time before I turn it over. After that, I'll be turning over, at least every couple of minutes. Okay, I think it's ready to turn over. Here it is, 6:18, so it's been cooking for about 8 minutes right now. Your cooking time, of course, will probably vary according to how big your pan is and how much okra you got. Alright, now when I turn it over that first time, I turn my stove up to 7. And I will leave my stove on 7 for a couple of turnovers, and then I'll turn it up to 8, and that's where I'll finish cooking it, will be on 8. And as this gets doner and doner, I start turning it over faster and faster as I go along here. As I say, the goal is to get it nice and just a light crispiness to it. You do not want your okra to be soggy. I think that's why a lot of people really just, and it's right now 6:20, I'm turning it over again. Stove is still on 7. I think that's why a lot of people just don't like okra. That they've just had soggy okra. Soggy okra. Nobody likes soggy okra. A lot of people do it entirely different than this. A lot of people will break an egg, coat the okra in egg, and then coat that in cornmeal, and then fill a cast iron pan up above the okra with oil, and then kind of deep fry that. And they don't cook nearly as many pods. I prefer not to do that. That is, it's 6:21 here, so I am starting to turn over a little faster. And I am going to turn it up on 8 now. But when you do that, you wind up with just eating a small amount of okra and a large amount of bread and a large amount of grease, which I prefer not to eat that much grease. I prefer to eat a lot of okra. If I'm going to eat okra, I want to eat okra, not a lot of bread and then a lot of grease. Still 622. And you do need to sort of try to be a little bit careful when you turn it over. If you, it's best not to, to smush up any of your pieces if you can help it. Be gentle with your okra. And there's what it's looking like close up. Of course, it's best to keep it as spread out as you can in the pan, so it'll get nice and evenly browned. Now 627. I think this has been cooking 17 minutes since I very first put it on. Alright, starting to crisp up really nicely. When you first start cooking it, as I probably said before, you don't want to turn it over too often, but when it starts to get close to done, you can turn it over quite a bit more often. If you turn it over too often, too fast, you're going to wind up with soggy okra, and it's going to wind up tearing up a bunch of pieces. Okay, I think I can add a little bit of salt now that it's starting to get kind of crispy. Do not add your salt toward the first, it'll make it sweat and it'll be soggier, although it's not a disaster. And 629. And it's not very many minutes away from being done. There's like a lot of things, I guess, on cooking. There's a little window of opportunity there. If you cook it a minute too little, it's not good. If you cook it a minute too much, it's not good. You got to get it just in that right window. Well, I say it's not good. It's just, not perfect. I prefer my okra to be perfect. And this batch is pretty doggone close to perfect. You should be able to tell on camera maybe that it's getting, nice and crisp. If you can't, I'll do a close-up of it after it's cooked. If it's really getting close, oh yeah, it's looking really, really good. Okay, and that okra sports fans is, well, I think I'll go another second. Okay, now it's done. The okra is done. I don't know if you can see the camera's focusing in on it or not, but I have put on the table here a little tray with some bounty towels in it. And I like to tilt my pan up a little bit to let all the oil run to the bottom of the pan, and then just sort of shovel my okra out as so, as such. Okay, and we are done. And there we have it, right there. Fried okra. And I always just sort of spread it out on my towel so it'll absorb as much grease as possible. And this is just about the way you want it, just like so. Golden brown, or very close to it anyway. Hot and good. Okay, bye everybody.